Welcome to Tech Smarter. This is the place where we talk with innovators, operators, and investors that are changing the face of aging services. My name is Abbie Richie. I'm the tech guru at the Smarter Service. And today's episode is sponsored by Leading Age Arizona. Now, if you're a senior living operator and you're struggling to provide consistent tech support to your residents, I want you to reach out to me, connect with me on LinkedIn, and we'll be sure to help you with that. I want to go ahead and bring my guest on today. We have with us Traci Lamb. Welcome to Tech Smarter, Traci.
Thank you so much. I am so glad to be here. Thank you for the invite, Abbie.
Yeah, you're so welcome. For any of those of you that don't know Traci, she's been one of the OGs in the senior living, aging services technology space. And Traci, would you please go ahead and introduce yourself to our viewers?
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. And I have been in this space for quite some time, been in healthcare for about 20 years, backgrounds at hospice, worked for hospice for about 13, 14 years. Started my own caregiving company about 4 or 5 years ago. Got into TV and radio and all kinds of crazy stuff. But at the time, I was also the primary caregiver for both of my parents. My dad passed in 22, and my business just got to be too much for me in 24. So taking care of my mom. So I closed my business and ended up 2 weeks after I closed my business, OdessaConnect found me on LinkedIn, and the rest is history. So here we are.
Being a founder, I know the struggle, and the struggle is real. And when you start something, you put all your heart and soul into it, and you just want to see that mission come to fruition 100%. And I'm so glad that you're still in the space and we can still connect with each other, talking about serving the people that we love, right?
Absolutely.
You have said that caregiving is truly the hardest thing you've ever done. And how did that personal in the trenches experience change your perspective on what senior tech actually needs to look like?
Yeah, I tell people all the time that I look at everything from a caregiver perspective first now before I look at it from a business perspective, because honestly, it impacted me so much. I look at it as, okay, how is this going to help me if I'm still taking care of my mom? And so it really does help. That's the way even when I was introduced to Odessa, I had never heard of them before. And the first thing I thought of was, okay, how can this help me with my mom? And so that was the first thought. And it ended up being a game changer for both me and my mom, both me as the caregiver and for her as even the patient or the senior. So it was very definitely something that I really, really immediately fell in love with.
I'd like to know more about how it was a game changer for you.
Sure. I'll tell you on the caregiver side and then on her side. So on the caregiver side for me, as a caregiver, we're always worried about our person. It's our thing.
Yeah.
And so when I would travel, like with Odessa, or had to go out of town or whatever, even with my company, before I got Odessa, mom lived with me. And there was nobody else. It was me and mom. So there wasn't somebody else I could call and say, how is she doing or anything like that. It was just me and her. And my mother loved me dearly. And a lot of times she would fudge about, oh, I'm great, when she really wasn't great. Or she wouldn't tell me about a fall or all kinds of wonderful things like that. So when we got Odessa, I was able to literally call her. She, like a lot of older people, love to watch her TV, and it was the one device that she knew how to watch. Plus she was very hard of her hearing, and so she could turn it up loud enough. Tablets and phones were never loud enough for her, and so she loved the TV. So I could actually call her when I was out of town or in somewhere else, and I could see her through the TV. It was a one button push that she just saw I was calling. She pushed one button. We were connected by audio and video. She talked, we talked. I could see she was doing okay, just sitting on the couch. And then as soon as the video call was over, she pushed TV and she immediately went back to watching TV. So for her, She loved the remote because we had a Roku, and so she had like 2 remotes, and she hated them. And she would lose them, and she would push the wrong button,
Yeah.
all that wonderful stuff that happens with every remote. And so for her, it was a game changer because we were able to get rid of all those other remotes. And we had the very simplistic remote that Odessa has that's patented. And it just made life so much easier for her. She really, really loved it.
Yes, I've been on many tech support calls where the TV and the input button and the remote
Yes.
is a big concern, a really big challenge. And anytime I've been working with someone one-on-one, I've taken those older remotes, all the other ones that you don't need once you have, say, upgraded to Odessa or you've upgraded to a Roku, and I've taken all those other remotes and I take the batteries out of them so they can't be used. Like
Yeah.
they can't be touched, right? But I'll put them in a baggie and write, "Do not touch."
Right.
And and shelf them away. So
Exactly.
I know it can make things so complicated for such a necessity for an older adult, like it's their connection to the outside. So I
Absolutely.
100% respect that. I want to ask you, tell us about Odessa for anyone who doesn't know about it, what it does, who it impacts, where you serve, and how it works, please.
Absolutely. So OdessaConnect is a product. It's a small black device, black box that can just sit on any TV. It is a very, very easy install. I am not a techie person, and I installed it for ours. So it's a very easy install. Comes with a remote. Like I say, that becomes a universal remote. Turns any TV into a two-way communication tool. It is HIPAA compliant. It's also SOC 2 certified. Basically, what that means is that it is extremely secure. The microphone and the camera are built into the box, so they cannot be seen. They only come on when the video call is initiated by friends or family members, because those are the only people that get an invite. So those are the only people that can call the TV. No phishing, no scamming. And the microphone and the camera go off when the video call is ended. So they don't stay on. They're not constantly monitoring, nothing like that. It's very secure. The family can feel secure knowing that nobody's constantly watching anybody. We're basically building an ecosystem into OdessaConnect at this point. So we're actually going to be having like a nurse on call available, and we're going to have a fall monitoring system available. So we want to make it to where pretty much anybody who is wanting to age in place at home, whether they're in the individual home or they have home health or whatever it may be, or they have a mobile doctor. So we're doing a lot of work with mobile doctors, home health agencies, all those kinds of things, because we do have an entire healthcare dashboard on the back end. We also can do remote patient monitoring. So we can actually take vitals through the TV, and we do that through Bluetooth enabled devices. So all of that's, and it's very simple. The patient doesn't have to be able to read anything. They basically take their temperature, it goes through the box, and it goes to the healthcare provider and the caregiver. That stuff, it gives a lot of peace of mind to the caregiver. My mom had high blood pressure, and we were able to take her blood pressure remotely simply because, at times she didn't want to tell me what her blood pressure was because it was high. And so I would just say, "Mom, take your blood pressure." And she would take it, and I would immediately know what it was. So she didn't have to tell me. So all of those things are what it can do and what it's capable of doing. And we're adding to it every single day.
So smart, so revolutionary to add in all of these different components so that we can make the TV something that's been a regular fixture in their home, and something they're so comfortable with,
Right.
even more efficient to gather that kind of data. I love it. One thing, I noticed specifically within the Florida market is that we have a huge aging population, and yet a lot of adult children that maybe live out of state, right?
Yes.
And so
Yes.
in this situation, can you talk about how OdessaConnect serves as the digital eyes and ears for that adult child in New York or in Ohio who's worried about their parents? You alluded to it just a
Yeah.
little bit, but would love to hear a little bit more about that.
Sure, sure. It definitely can give you peace of mind. We purposefully ask a lot of the family and friends to get involved with Odessa. Send a lot of photos, upload videos. This way, if the patient can't go to a wedding, somebody can take a tablet or a phone and live stream it to their TV so they can actually feel like they're actually at that wedding that they didn't feel like they could get to go to. So, those kinds of things can happen, as well as, like I say, when you're the caregiver, obviously your first priority is your person. So if you're in Ohio and mom is in Florida, then you can just do a quick virtual check-in. You can do medication reminders. You can do appointment reminders. You can just send a quick message, because there's a messaging feature. So it's like having email. Odessa basically turns your TV into a giant iPad. So you can just think along those lines. So you can send a message and say, "Hey, mom, did you take your medicine at 9 a.m.? Hey, remember, mom, you need to have a doctor's appointment today at 3. You can do all those different kinds of things, of just gentle nudges. But that way, and you'll actually get a response back. They just hit the OK button, and you'll actually get a response back that they actually saw your message. So again, all of that is going back to peace of mind and being able to know, okay, my mom is okay. My mom is okay. And then, like I say, you can just virtually check in. It's all basically like a FaceTime. It's through our caregiver app, free to download on Apple or Androids. And it's just like a FaceTime.
Yeah, this television as the portal philosophy that OdessaConnect has opted into for many, many older adults. The TV is just the most trusted, the most non-threatening object in the house. And because of that, it's really become the right portal for the 80 plus demographic. How have you managed to hide the complexity of all the technology in your simplified remote?
Well, honestly, we have a lot of people that really from 60 on up are starting to use OdessaConnect. I mean, it really is, because of the simplicity of it. Todd, our founder and CEO, always says, it's easy to make tech hard on the back end, and make it do all these wonderful things. But it's not super easy to make tech easy. And he really wanted to make the tech easy for the seniors. And so he has done that in a beautiful way. And everybody that has been our strategic partners that we've been bringing on board over the last year really, really is happy with the way our back end can plug into. We can plug into EHRs. We're starting to work with PACE programs. We can work with a lot of different organizations. They can plug into our back end. We can white label for them. So it's basically like they have a billboard in the patient's home. It becomes quite wonderful for them, for our partners, but it's really, really wonderful for the patients and the seniors, because like I say, my mom, once she realized she could just throw away her 2 remotes and just have the one simple one that just had 11 buttons, and that was big and she wouldn't lose and all that other kind of stuff. It was beautiful.
Oh my goodness, I can see it now. So I want to talk about some of the last mile problems that OdessaConnect is doing that are designed to really keep the most vulnerable seniors out of situations that they don't want to be in. So how does your technology solve the last mile problem?
Sure. The main way we're doing that now is we really are we really are designed for healthcare people. So whether it's home health or whether it's mobile physicians or primary care physicians for seniors, we really, really can help with that, because of the fact that they are not only able to do virtual check-ins and touch the patient more frequently, but they also can do remote patient monitoring, like I said. So they're able to get those vitals without the patient having to come into the office, as a lot of patients get to the place where they don't want to come in. That's one reason why we're able to help PACE. A lot of these patients that are in rural, I hate that word, areas, they don't want to come in, they don't want to drive that far, all that kind of stuff. And PACE still has to be able to touch those patients. And if they don't want to come in, this is a fantastic way that they don't have to work. The patient doesn't have to try to figure out audio or video and all that kind of stuff, whether it's on a phone or on a tablet. They just get very, very frustrated. And this is a way for them to do it basically with a one click. And also with our healthcare dashboard on the back end, we have CPT billing codes, so they can do CPT billing codes through that. They get graphs of all the different kinds of monitoring vitals that they're taking. And we even have screening questions. They can ask screening questions that they can change daily, weekly, or monthly. So how are you doing? Have you had any falls? Did you take your medication? All that kind of stuff.
And whether or not they answer, honestly, that's up to them, right?
That's true. Although, it's interesting. We have actually found that they come closer to telling the truth to the TV than they do to their own caregiver. It's like, the caregiver might say, "Oh, what do you mean you fell yesterday and you didn't tell me?" Well, see, the TV is not going to do that. Plus, we do have a gamification at the end of each set of questions, like "Yay, you answered your questions correctly." So we have found that they'll actually go in every day and answer the same questions just because they want the hit of dopamine. So it's true.
Yes, at the Smarter service, we find that our tech concierge are able to really bridge that last mile with a lot of older adults, for instance, living in senior living communities, by just providing them with the understanding behind what they're doing and how to use their technology. It's so vital. You mentioned a little bit about telehealth, which I think is fantastic, and the struggles that older adults face because of the friction of the password, of the smaller screens, of just finding a link or a code.
Exactly.
The code, right? Like, I know it's just such an obstacle. Now, you pioneered one-click telehealth. Can you describe the experience of an older adult receiving a doctor's call through their TV?
Oh yeah, it's absolutely wonderful. Because I actually did it with my mom, which was great. I was a really good guinea pig because I had an 84-year-old mom. She was starting to have some cognitive issues. And so it was really great, for me to be able to try it out really on my person. But the reality is that I'll tell you the two different ways I did it. If she would call me and I would have her do her blood pressure and I saw her blood pressure was high, then I would immediately call her doctor and I would say, "Listen, can you do a telehealth visit with mom today? Her blood pressure is really high." And I would tell them, and they would say, "Sure." And so they actually had, the app, and they would pull it up on their screen at work. And then the doctor would come in and she would just hit, "I want to do a video call with Barbara Lamb." It's very simple and easy for providers to use. And each patient has their own profile and all that kind of cool stuff. You can also see multiple patients at one time. But then mom, sitting here at my house, would go ahead and when she was just watching TV, and then all of a sudden it would pop up on her screen and say, "Dr. Cherniels is calling." And so all she had to do was hit the OK button. And that way she wanted to accept the call. And like I say, she'll only get calls from people that she knows. Now it's up to her if she's going to accept it or not. So, if somebody calls and she's like, "I'm not in the mood to talk to Aunt Mary, well, then okay, then Aunt Mary may pass." But she went ahead and she would just hit OK. And then that way the doctor was able to speak to her. And she just sat there on the couch and answered the doctor's questions. We are implementing this year 3- and 4-way calls, which basically means if the doctor is in Florida, the patient's in Florida, but a brother is in Ohio and a sister is in Wisconsin, then all 4 could actually be on the call. And so that way, when decisions are needing to be made for the patient and about the patient, then the family can actually be all on the call and be able to do all in on the decision making.
I love it. I love it. One thing you mentioned just a little while ago was the new SOC certification that you received.
Mm-hmm.
With all of this medical intervention and diagnosis and connection occurring, how do you provide enterprise grade security while keeping the user experience feeling like a simple family photo album?
Sure, sure. Honestly, that's all Todd. Todd Smith, our founder and CEO. He worked in he worked in his garage for 3 years, creating Odessa and patenting the remote and making it to where it could be extremely secure. He immediately wanted, when he created it, wanted it to be HIPAA compliant for obvious reasons. We recently, within the last year, have become an authorized user for TennCare and United Healthcare and Blue Cross Blue Shield and WellPoint. And so one of the things that we decided to do to start working with them was to go ahead and get SOC 2 certified. And that is a massive undertaking. It's not something, if people don't know about it, it's not something that you can do, in a day, in a week, or a month even. But we are very proud of that. And it does keep us very, very, very secure. So and the data that we get in, we share it only with our strategic partners and that's it, the partner that is with us. So if otherwise it's ours, we don't sell it. We don't do anything with that, so.
Gotcha. Yeah. Safety and security, they're really the foundations of what we consider digital literacy. And so we're constantly teaching at the Smarter Service our clients how to be safer online, but truly how to know when something is a scam, when something is false or not. And so just having that some security in place is huge.
Oh yeah, for sure. And older people are the bad thing is, and I learned this a lot even just taking care of my mom and my dad, they are number one, they're gullible on one side, and then on the other side, they get really skeptical. So they don't really know what to believe and if this is true, if this is false. They get an email and they're like, oh, it's just like gospel, and unfortunately they don't understand that there's a lot of bad people out there that want to take them for their money and everything else. And so anything and everything that people can do, I constantly promote. You really need to make sure that everything is secure. That's why we vet all of our partners and everything else, because it's not something that we take lightly.
Yeah. I recently read that as you age or you experience cognitive decline, that internal alarm that tells you something is off starts to also decline, and you kind of lose that as you age or as you experience cognitive decline. Well, you recently announced a partnership with Gomo Health, right? And this seems to really move beyond connection into activation. How does this partnership help older adults take a more active role in managing their own chronic conditions?
Yeah, we are super excited to be partnered with Gomo. Gomo is a fantastic organization. Bob Gold is the CEO. Phenomenal organization, and they're doing a lot of different things with a lot of different companies. One of the ones that we are possibly going to be working with is a program that is run by Stanford, actually Stanford University. It's called SourceWise, and it's for caregivers. They actually started it back in COVID days. Stanford wanted to be able to help the caregivers that were in the county where they are located. And so they got together with the Agency on Aging there and started this phenomenal program for caregivers there. It's free to caregivers. It's really a fantastic program. So we're actually going to be working with Gomo on that program. And they've got some others that they want to roll us out with. So super excited. I think it's going to really, really be able to help even more seniors and more patients across the country.
Awesome. I'm happy for you. That's phenomenal. Loneliness can be as dangerous as smoking 15 cigarettes a day, but you've been able to really make the technology more joyful and more integrative by adding in music and gaming and even faith-based broadcasts into the platform. How does OdessaConnect use joy as a clinical tool to combat social isolation?
Well, the reality is that we did not want it to look like or feel like a health device, because seniors are not going to engage with that if they feel like it's a health device. So we really wanted it to feel like I said, like a giant iPad for them, one that they could actually work, one that wasn't difficult to use, that one that was user friendly, and one that they could get, photos and videos and feel and get messages and, feel like they were engaged with their friends and their families. And because it is so easy to use, it does make them feel less isolated and lonely. And because we have started bringing on partners that bring in a lot of different content, then we've been able to make it to where, like I say, we are really building an ecosystem of a lot of different things to be able to offer to people that are aging in place at home.
I love it. When you think about all the features that go into OdessaConnect, what are some that have been surprising to you that have been so well adopted? And what are some that you were really excited about that didn't actually move forward?
Honestly, I think the one that I was most excited about was actually twofold. One was the RPM, the remote patient monitoring. We started doing that about 6 months ago, and I love that. I think that has been amazing. For a caregiver level, like I say, because I personally use that, but I also think on the healthcare side, it's really, really fantastic because it saves time, effort, and money. You don't necessarily have to send a caregiver in person. You can actually, or the person doesn't actually have to come to you in person. It can actually save time, effort, and money, which is key. And then on the flip side, as far as something that we've started that I didn't think rolled out really great, honestly, I can't really think of anything. The reality is that we're getting ready to roll out gaming this year. And I'm super excited about that. It's so different than any other thing out there. I think it's just gonna revolutionize everything. And I think, again, it goes back to what you just mentioned, which is the isolation and the loneliness. I can remember my father sitting in his recliner. This was obviously before I ever knew about Odessa. And he said, "Trace, I just feel like I'm sitting here waiting to die." And it was so sad because, he couldn't go out. He couldn't go travel. He couldn't go do anything. And I think that was really pronouncedly, we all got a feel of that during COVID. And so we all kind of realized, okay, seniors are feeling this way. It wasn't just my dad. All seniors are feeling this way. And so we've got to do something about this in a big way. And I think the industry has really come up to that. And the industry is really coming along with making some real headway with all of that, which I'm really thankful for because it was a huge problem. And it's not going to go away. And I think there's a lot of fantastic technology that can help. But Odessa is definitely a game changer in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, it sounds like more and more that it's really revolutionizing the TV. Absolutely. And in turning it and modernizing the living room for so many older adults.
Yep, that without a doubt. The bottom line is that, whether they're 60 on up or whatever, TV is their thing. They may be able to work a tablet, they may be able to use a phone some, but TV is their thing. And because of that, this makes everything bigger, everything louder, everything visually bigger. So even people with vision problems, everything is bigger and everything is much easier because of our remote.
I love it. I love it. Traci, can you let people know how they can connect with you for more information, please?
Sure, I would love to. My email address is Traci, TRACI, at Odessa, ODESSA Connect, CONNECT.TV. And they can also go to our website as well if they want to there's a form that they can fill out and they can say, I'd like more information. Either way, and I would love to talk to anybody and answer any questions anybody has, show them a demo, whatever they'd like.
That's so thoughtful. Thank you so much for joining us today. And for those of you that are joining us after this recording, we want to thank you for your participation, your questions, and your engagement. It makes such a big difference, and we are grateful. And we also want to thank Leading Age Arizona for sponsoring today's episode. And we will see you all right back here next week for another episode. Thank you.
Thank you.